Good morning. Welcome to the Criminal Justice Non-Germane Hearing of House Bill 38. If you would please rise and join me for the national anthem. Excuse me, I won't be singing the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't mean to disappoint everybody. I'm not singing. So if you would all just, I'm sorry you all sit, but if you wouldn't mind, could everyone please rise and join me in a moment of silence to remember Staff Sergeant Tanner Groen, who was killed on November 10th. He's from Gorham, New Hampshire. He was killed in a U.S. Army helicopter crash. Thank you all. And with that, I would invite County Attorney Enders to come up and tell us about his request.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Stephen Endres. I'm a prosecutor at the Merrimack County Attorney's Office. I've been a prosecutor for a little over 20 years. We're talking about the habitual offender statute. In this case, it's RSA 262-23. There's a sentence within that statute that begins with the words provided, however. Normally, a sentence that begins with provided, however, is an exception to a rule. In this case, you'll see that the exception is that a sentence may be suspended when driving a motor vehicle is necessitated by situations of extreme emergency. However, it's an exception to a rule that no longer exists. There used to be a rule in 2016 in the habitual offender statute that created a minimum mandatory 1-year sentence. And there was language in the statute that indicated no portion of that minimum mandatory shall be suspended. This created an exception to that rule. The difficulty is that in 2016, the legislature amended the habitual offender statute, got rid of the minimum mandatory, got rid of the prohibition on suspending any portion of the sentence, but left this sentence in. The reason that this creates some confusion is we've had judges read this sentence to mean that they can only suspend sentences in cases of extreme emergency. Which I don't believe is the case. I believe that the legislature intended judges to have discretion in the habitual offender statute, which is consistent with the prior HO amendment. I did send out a handout that I wrote yesterday to everybody, emailed it, and I had a couple extra hard copies if anyone needed it, and I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Thank you. So we fixed it in 2016 so that the judge had discretion to suspend a sentence if he wanted to.
Correct.
Prior to that, he could not, and people got the sentence. We left this in there when we did it, so they still think that they may have to impose a minimum sentence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I know at least one judge that we regularly go in front of reads this sentence to mean that he can only suspend the sentence in cases of extreme emergency.
I see. Okay. Any questions from the committee? Yeah, go ahead, Representative Saitek.
Under what circumstances would a judge be inclined to suspend part of the sentence?
So the habitual offender statute, I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but in New Hampshire, if you commit a certain number of motor vehicle offenses, you can be certified as an habitual offender. They break that into major and minor offenses. So if you accumulate, I believe it's 12 speeding tickets, or it might be 8 speeding tickets, you can be certified as an habitual offender. If you accumulate 3 operating after suspension charges, you can be certified as an habitual offender because those are major offenses. So it's any combination of 3 majors, 12 minors, or a combination of, for example, 1 major and I think it's 8 minors, or 2 majors and 4 minors. You can be certified as an habitual offender. If you're certified as an habitual offender, you lose your license for a period of 5 years. So there's a 5-year period you can't drive. We've certainly had cases where people, for example, lost their license as habitual offenders maybe 10 years ago because they had 3 operating after suspensions or a dozen speeding tickets, and they just never bothered to get their license back. And you'll have a situation where someone is, we've certainly had situations where there's a car mechanic who's bringing a car on a test drive and gets pulled over and we find out he's an habitual offender. He gets charged with being an habitual offender. It didn't make sense in some of these cases to send this person to prison for a period of a year, 1 to 5 years, which is what the prior minimum mandatory was. However, it does make sense to perhaps suspend a sentence, hang it over that person's head to inspire them to follow the law in the future. So there's certainly a lot of, sort of fact-specific scenarios where we'd want to provide an appropriate sentence, which would include a suspended period of time to help the person comply with the law in the future.
Any further questions? Representative Sitek.
If I may, since we're pretty much on board with this, I think, may I ask you a bit of history? It seems to me that a driving offense shouldn't be how does it get to be a felony? A year in jail for speeding tickets would seem enough. Why did this get promoted to felony status?
So being certified as an habitual offender itself didn't bring any jail time with it. So what would happen is if you accumulated a certain number of points on your license, essentially, or a number of offenses within a 5-year period, you'd be summoned to the DMV. They would have a hearing and they would certify you as an habitual offender. If you didn't drive during that period, you were fine. It's not like you were going to jail or anything for that. If you did drive during that period of time, that's when the felony offense comes about, is you're violating the order of the Department of Motor Vehicles not to drive while you're certified as an habitual offender. I don't know if that answers your question or makes sense.
The question is, why is it promoted to a felony status when I think a year in jail for speeding tickets is plenty? What motivated the this is a bit of history, nothing to do with this, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. I'll stop here.
I can't say what motivated the legislature at the time. I know that certainly one way to become an habitual offender is to accumulate 3 driving while intoxicated convictions. And it strikes me that if a person accumulates 3 driving while intoxicated convictions and then continues to drive after they've lost their license for a period of 5 years, that is a fairly serious offense that does in fact deserve a felony conviction.
But just for clarification, everyone here, that is no longer the law. What is the current state of the law with regard to driving after when you're a habitual offender?
It is a felony if the certification was based on a misdemeanor, a driving while intoxicated, or if you have a subsequent habitual offender conviction.
But it doesn't carry a minimum mandatory.
Correct. It no longer carries a minimum mandatory, and it is possible to be a misdemeanor in certain circumstances. For example, the 12 speeding tickets would be a misdemeanor habitual offender.
See, so what we did is we took out that minimum mandatory so the judge had more discretion, but at least one judge seems to think he doesn't have discretion, and that's why we're taking this out of here, correct?
Yes, and the sentence is just confusing in isolation.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for Attorney Enders? Seeing none, we got one.
Just so I'm clear, right now today, it has to be a save a life or limb. So if we remove all that, then that means that the judge has discretion to do whatever he chooses to do. Is that correct? Is that another way of looking at it?
Sort of. And the reason I say sort of is because many judges view this as they're able to suspend the sentence under any circumstances. Mm-hmm. There's at least one judge who says, I can only suspend it under the circumstances listed in the statute to save life or limb. And we're trying to clarify that judges can suspend the sentence under any circumstances. If that makes sense.
Okay, so yes, it clarifies that they can use their discretion to do as they please.
Yes, it clarifies that the judges are able to use their discretion.
Thank you.
Which was what the legislature intended in 2016 by removing the minimum mandatory.
Yes.
Correct. You're shut off. Any further questions for Attorney Enders? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for presenting us with this today.
Thank you.
And we'll take it up as soon as we get clean up on aisle 4. There being no further witnesses, I hereby close the public hearing on House Bill 38. And I open the executive session on House Bill 38. And I will make a motion of OTP. No, actually, I have to introduce the amendment. I will introduce the amendment number 24238. Oh, is it? Oh, I thought she just scheduled it for right afterwards. Oh, I didn't. Okay, so pay no attention to what I just did. We will open that at 11 o'clock. Why did she do that? I told her. Okay, at this point, I'm opening the executive session on House Bill 39 and, excuse me, 38. And I am recognizing myself to introduce amendment number 2423H. And could I get a second? Seconded by Representative Gathright. I'll speak to the motion. The amendment is the amendment suggested by the county attorney we just heard from. It makes a technical fix to the law that will allow judges discretion to suspend sentences rather than impose them. He said that we had at least one judge out there that felt he still had to implement a mandatory sentence, which was clearly not our intent when we fixed it in 2016. Though I was not here then, it seems to be pretty clear. Any discussion? Would you like to speak to your second, Representative Gathering?
No, I think you did a good job.
Anyone else want to talk about it? It seems pretty clear.
Thank you.
Representative Sitek.
Actually, nothing to do with this, but we're going to have an echo of this because if you recall, I did not want to gum up the works, but there is, in one of the bills that we let go through, it said if a bail commissioner is a police officer, which is not permitted by other sections of the law. So one day we're going to have to come and line that out also. But this wasn't the day. It does no harm, but I just wanted, since I had to sit here till 11 o'clock, I wanted to say it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And often as we touch these bills, it's incumbent upon us to take a look at them and make sure there's nothing else hanging around out there that doesn't belong. And this is clearly one of those cases. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I would ask the clerk to call the roll. The vote is on accepting the amendment to the bill.
Representative Bogart,
Yes.
Representative Pratt,
Yes.
Representative Sitek, Representative Prue,
Yes.
Representative Kennedy,
Yes.
Representative Mannion,
Yes.
Representative Colcone,
Yes.
Representative Stone,
Yes.
Representative Tenzar,
Yes.
Representative Gathright,
Yes.
Representative Muse,
Yes.
Representative Manjaputi,
Yes.
Representative Vale,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Newman.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Selig,
Yes.
Representative Wheeler, Chairman Roy,
Chair votes yes.
20-0.
The motion carries. The amendment is adopted. At this time, I'll recognize myself to make a motion of OTPA with House Bill 38,
Second.
seconded by Representative Prue. I don't think we need any further discussion. I'm seeing none. I would ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion on the floor is OTPA.
Representative Stone,
Yes.
Representative Bogart,
Yes.
Representative Pratt,
Yes.
Representative Sitek, Representative Prue,
Yes.
Representative Kennedy,
Yes.
Representative Mannion,
Yes.
Representative Colcomb,
Yes.
Representative Tenzar,
Yes.
Representative Gathright,
Yes.
Representative Muse,
Yes.
Representative Manjaputi,
Yes.
Representative Vale,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Newman.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Selig, Representative Wheeler,
Yay.
Chairman Roy,
Chair votes yes.
20-0.
Motion carries. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, it will go on consent. And with that, I close the executive session on House Bill 38. And we are done for the day. Please, everyone, I sent an email, and I'm going to remind you again, if you have a report due, I sent a copy of the green sheet around so you know if you have one. I need it today. Remember, the deadline is Friday, and I need to have time to look at these and submit them. So I need it today. Tomorrow's the deadline, so I have to send them over to the clerk. Thank you. Actually, one more thing. I'm not going to see you anymore, so I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. It's been a great year working with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all in January to pick up our work again.